is an executive agency of the Department of Environment, Transport and the Regions, DETR. The agency's maxim is safe driving for life, and it endeavours to influence drivers' behaviour for the better by concentrating on the early years of driving in the run-up to and immediately after the tests to create a sound attitude to acquiring and developing skills. The primary aim of the agency is to promote road safety in Britain through the advancement of driving standards and in particular by testing drivers, motorcyclists and driving instructors fairly and efficiently. Driving Skills for Life is one of a series of driving skills products and is designed to alert goods vehicle drivers to safe driving practice. There's no substitute for good tuition, but this programme explains the importance of establishing defensive driving procedures which will help protect all road users. Modern transport systems require all drivers to handle their vehicles safely and economically. This video has a realistic approach to the realities of meeting tight schedules while taking maximum care of other road users, drivers and vehicles. Really like to drive a large goods vehicle? Well, you probably know already. There are times when it all seems to happen at once, so many things to think about and plan for. You need a professional attitude and all the experience you can get. We want to help by giving you a privileged view of how the experts do it. And soon, driving a large goods vehicle will seem as natural as breathing. And we don't just want to help you pass your test. We're aiming to make you a better all-round driver before and after you pass. We've used highly experienced test drivers and instructors who are used to handling trucks in the most demanding conditions. Each section of the programme is the edited highlights of one of their drives, 9 all told. 3 of them are basic, 3 medium level and 3 professional. They're all highly concentrated, designed to be viewed more than once. The first time you watch, you'll pick up the obvious points, the ones we mention as we go along. The second time, you'll pick up more points that perhaps aren't referred to, but they're there in the pictures nevertheless. Study the programme carefully. If you watch each drive for a third or fourth time, you'll still find something new. At times, we'll divide the screen so you can see and understand things that wouldn't otherwise be obvious. We'll slow down the picture so you can really appreciate exactly what our drivers are doing. And we'll concentrate on the most significant road signs. We can boost your experience and add to what you learn from a properly organised course of instruction. This isn't a substitute for actually driving a large goods vehicle, but it's the closest you'll get without being on the road yourself. It's vital you get the basics right, no matter how simple they might seem. When you're pulling away, select first, check your mirrors, and then signal. Look over your right shoulder to check the blind spot, and if it's all clear, pull away. If you're facing uphill, then use first, check your mirrors, and then signal. A final check on the mirrors, bring the clutch up to the bite with balanced revs and release the handbrake. Accelerate gently until the clutch is fully up into second, and then accelerate hard up the hill, working up through the gears. Pulling away downhill, select second or even third. Keep your foot on the foot brake, handbrake off, check the mirrors, signal on, check that blind spot, take the bite up on the clutch and then coordinate the clutch with the foot brake and gently accelerate down the hill. Before you stop, always check that it's safe, legal and convenient for other road users. Remember, even a 7.5 tonner can easily block a road. Check your mirrors, signal if necessary, and carry on checking your mirrors as you slow down for traffic behind you. Use your near side mirror to check how far away you are from the curb, then it's handbrake on, into neutral and cancel that signal. Keep a constant check on your mirrors all the time. Practice this in your own car by concentrating more on the wing mirrors. You can't say it too many times. First mirror, then signal, and then manoeuvre. You should always be driving a large goods vehicle, never just coasting along. If you coast, there's no drive on the axle and you're not in full control of the vehicle. Although you might have 16 gears on a truck, at this stage we'll just look at 7. A large engine needs time to pick up revs and slow down, so relax, don't fight the gear stick. If you're doing the right speed and revs, you'll find the gear easily. Don't drive with your hand constantly on the gear stick or with your foot always riding the clutch. If you do that, you're not in full control of the vehicle. And in a modern truck, first is a true gear, not just a crawler gear, so use it properly. When you're changing up, you need to give a slight delay for the revs to drop before you go into the next gear. It makes for a smoother change. If you get it wrong at the low end, you'll stall, and at the high end, you might damage the engine. Check your mirrors every time you change gear. If you're accelerating away, you need to be very aware of what's happening on the road around you. Memorize your truck's speed bands for each gear. These are typical operating speeds of up to 3 miles an hour in first, 8 miles an hour in second, 12 miles an hour in third, up to 16 miles an hour in fourth, and then up to 22 miles an hour in fifth. Change into sixth before we come back down the box. Now we know the typical operating speeds in each gear. As we come back down, we know which gear to choose to match the speed we're doing. 19 miles an hour in fifth, down to 15 miles an hour to locate fourth, $10 miles an hour for third gear, and then 5 miles an hour for second. And with the truck barely moving as we go into first. Here, as the driver gets near the top of the hill, he changes up too soon, and there's a real danger of the truck stalling. He has to make a skip change from 6th to 4th to get the revs back up to give him the power to get up the rest of the hill. When you're changing down, you'll often use skip changes to match your gear to the speed band. Rev up slightly before you engage the lower gear. Takes practice, but it's much smoother. Changing gear is a lot slower in a truck than in a car, and more so when the truck's fully loaded. When you're slowing down like this, always brake first to get down to the right speed, and then change gear. Once you're at the right speed for a hazard, it's easier to choose the right gear. You have to be able to change gear under pressure, so the more you practice the better, in a truck or in your own car. If you're in the right gear, it's easier to accelerate away from the hazard when you've passed it. Going downhill, you should be in a gear that's helping to hold you back. As you go down, plan ahead and bring your speed down to slightly below the normal gear change speed. That's because while you're finding that lower gear, the truck is picking up speed because of the hill. Always brake before you change down. Get yourself into the right gear at the right time and know your speed bands. Get into a routine at the start of every day's driving. Anti-theft systems are more and more popular. If you haven't got one, you should have. This one completely immobilises the vehicle and can sound an alarm in your pocket up to 2 miles from the truck. Filling in the tachograph disc isn't just a chore. It's a legal requirement and it's for your benefit as much as anybody. Some of the latest tachographs record your revs as well. You can use the information to check that you're driving economically and you're not over-revving the engine. Make sure you know how your tachograph works. It's all part of being a professional driver. When you start up, make sure your air gauges are up to the recommended pressures. A buzzer sounds if they drop too low. Establishing a routine applies to coupling up as well. Reverse just short of the trailer and then get out and check the trailer is high enough to back the unit underneath and that the trailer brake is still on. Reverse back until you hear a clicking sound from the fifth wheel handle. Tug forward a couple of times in a low gear to make sure it's coupled. Put the safety catch on and then connect the electrical and air lines. On a 3-airline system, there's also a blue line, the auxiliary. If it's not being used, make sure it's connected back into the truck's location point to complete the air system. The yellow airline is the service line for the trailer brakes. The red line is the emergency line. Twist the coupling until you get a good fit. And then turn on the air taps if they're fitted. Wind the trailer legs up. And stow away the handle. Turn the trailer brake off and make sure you've got the right number plate fitted. Check all the lights for damage. All the tyres are your responsibility and it's essential to check the pressures, ideally with a gauge. Operators often have stickers on the wheel arches showing the recommended pressures. And check for any cuts and bulges and that the tread pattern is legal. Replacing the valve cap keeps the valve clean and in good working order. Also check the wheel nuts to make sure none are loose or damaged. The final thing you should do before you leave the yard is to test your brakes. New trucks all have ABS anti-lock brakes fitted to make for easier braking, and you need to know whether your unit and your trailer have ABS. Information lights show that the truck has ABS fitted, but the trailer does not. The sequence of the lights varies depending on the make of truck you're driving. Generally, when you're driving, you should be in the centre of your lane, except on a very wide road when you should position yourself a few feet from the curb. On narrow roads, that may reduce to just a few inches. Remember, your size can cause problems for other road users. Cyclists need at least 6 feet clearance, otherwise the wind turbulence from the side of the truck might blow them over. There's still room to pass here without crossing the solid white line. Watch them in your mirror as you complete the manoeuvre. But on a narrower road, you must hold back until you're sure it's safe to pass without endangering other road users. With roundabouts, it's vital you know which is your exit and that you keep up your observation at all times. When turning left, check your mirrors, signal, brake and choose your approach gear. If there's no lane marking, use the seam in the tarmac. As you approach, check carefully to the right, and before you enter the roundabout, check your near side mirror to make sure you're clear of the curb and there's no cyclists or motorbikes creeping alongside. And keep on checking those mirrors till you're completely clear and cancelled your signal. If you're going straight on, anything between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock can be classed as straight ahead. Use the left-hand lane, but don't signal right and then left. It's bad practice and it confuses other road users. Hug the outside of the roundabout, and as you pass the exit prior to yours, signal left and keep your signal on till you're completely clear of the roundabout. If you're turning right, mirrors, signal and position keep tight up to that right-hand curb with your right indicator on. Look for a suitable gap as you approach, checking your near side mirror just before you enter the roundabout. Keep tight to the island without clipping it. And then signal left just as you pass the exit prior to the one you want. Drift out to your left, check your mirrors for any cars trying to squeeze around you and make sure it's completely safe. On a tight roundabout, check the near side mirror just before entering it, use the whole width of the roundabout if necessary, and check that nobody else is going to pull in front of you. Check continually in both mirrors and use both lanes of the narrow exit road to prevent you from hitting the curb with the trailer. On junctions, you need to make a careful assessment of the geography of the curb line as you approach them. Move out to the white line, see if the side road is clear, and then curve the unit round. Moving out to the white line will help to prevent you from clipping the curb and damaging the tyres. As you come out of the bend, you may have to cross a white line in the face of oncoming traffic, so proceed with caution. When you move out to the white line, be very careful nothing's coming up on the inside of you. Your trailer wheels should be reasonably tight to the corner as you move round. Coming up to a T-junction, turning right, mirrors, signal, position yourself correctly according to the width of the lane, brake, choose your approach gear and keep all-round observation. And when it's clear, pull right across the main road before turning right, hugging the left-hand curb to minimise the amount the trailer cuts in. It reduces the amount of time the trailer is blocking the road for oncoming traffic. On a left-hand turn, signal left and position yourself with a suitable gap from the curb to the right of your lane. You might still need to pull out across the main road to give space for the trailer to clear extra hazards, such as a parked car. On every turn, check both your mirrors all the time. The offside one for the headboard position and the near side to see where the trailer back end is positioned. Tuck in to the left and we're already preparing for the next junction. As we approach the give way lines, we can see that there's a car to our right. He's just started to signal left and we can see he's braking. so we keep the truck rolling, being extremely cautious and using nearly the whole of the main road to give room for the trailer to clear the curb and coming back to the near side curb as soon as we can. Now, turning into a tight side road, we keep tight to the left curb on the approach, steering quickly and moving slowly to bring it round, and then hugging the near side curb again and away. Although we've crossed white lines into opposing traffic and used the other half of the road, you must not cross or straddle a solid white line, except for those reasons shown in the highway code. To get round this corner, we're straddling the left and right-hand lanes, but signalling left, carefully checking nothing's creeping up on the inside of us and going deep into the junction before turning left, to give enough space for the trailer not to clip the curb. That's vitally important in town, where there's so many pedestrians and hazards around. At any junction, assess as early as you can what's going on in front and behind you. Make sure you have enough space to go forward, not just for the cab, but for the trailer. And remember that a truck has much less acceleration than you might be used to in your own car. You need more time and space to complete a manoeuvre. However, you can still use your own car to practice basic positioning on the road. Position yourself in good time and give clear signals to other road users, not ones that are likely to confuse them. And remember, the more paint on the road, the more severe the hazard. Our medium-level sections start to put together some of the techniques you've learned and add to your knowledge. Angle starts are common. You need to cross into the oncoming lane and give the parked car at least 3 feet clearance with the trailer, moving back in as soon as you can. If you're in the right-hand lane of a one-way street, you'll often find a car could emerge from the blind spot under your near-side door. And that's despite the proximity mirror, which gives you a view straight down. You must get to know all the blind spots for your vehicle. And do you match your speed to the hazard? You should be able to stop comfortably when the lights change. But if you stop when these lights change, you'd have to stand on the brakes and the car behind would run into the back of you. So there's a point of final decision where you have to decide to stop or carry on. If you don't stop comfortably when the lollipop man steps into the road, he'll write your number on the black bar on his sign and you'll be prosecuted. Here the speed was just right. So, as you approach a hazard, back off a little so you can stop in time. That was far too close for comfort. He didn't anticipate the children crossing, and it's his fault, not theirs. When you stop in a lay-by, you need to pull as far up to the front as you can to let other vehicles pull in behind you. It takes a long distance for an Artic to straighten up after pulling round in front of another vehicle. At the end of the day, find yourself firm, level and legal ground to uncouple your trailer. If it's not firm and level, you can use chocks on the wheels or even a railway sleeper to help spread the weight. Put the trailer brake on and then wind down the legs, stowing the handle. Turn off the air taps if they're fitted, uncouple the air and electrical lines, being careful not to get dirt or water into the air couplings or the valves might fail. Take off the safety catch and pull the fifth wheel handle. Check the tyres and wheel nuts on the whole of the outfit for damage. and then pull slowly forward, making sure the weight of the trailer is supported by the legs. Check the trailer brake is still fully on and take off the number plate and put it in your cab. When you're driving a unit on its own, it can skid very easily, especially in the wet, so be careful. Back in the cab, fill out the tachograph disc and put it in the special wallet. Because they're pressure sensitive, they can easily get damaged and become unreadable. Turn on the anti-theft system to immobilize the unit. And don't leave anything valuable in sight unnecessarily. It might encourage a thief to break in. Plan well ahead, anticipate the hazards, and keep up good all-round observation all the time. Up to now, we haven't mentioned road conditions. In wet weather and on slippery road surfaces, you need more space to stop, and it's even more important that your tyres are in tip-top condition. In the wet, leave more time for braking and choosing an approach gear. Stopping distances can double in these sort of conditions. As you approach to turn left into the side road, hold back so the car driver can see around you. He needs to come out to give you room to turn in. Look into the junction to see there aren't any more cars, and as you turn in, watch the headboard to see it doesn't catch on those trees. That tree could equally be a lamppost or a shop awning. Likewise, hold back when you're turning right into a tight side road, and then move forward along the main road as far as you can before turning, and hug the near side curb in the side road, watching the trailer carefully because it's cutting into the other lane. As you drive, you should always be thinking one gear ahead or one split gear ahead. Think of a split gear as changing up or down by half a gear. We're moving from low fourth to low fifth and then using the splitter. The clutch goes down and we're in high fifth. And now up to high sixth. A check on the mirrors and we'll flick down, ready for low sixth or low seventh when we need it. Coming uphill to a small roundabout, we're choosing a gear from the whole of the upper and lower ranges, matching it to our speed and judging our speed carefully because the trailer is only just going to clear such a small roundabout as we turn right. Clipping the curb here can easily damage your tyres. Again, we're choosing a gear just as we come up to the hazard. By reading the road, we know the camber is the wrong way, so we have to keep the speed down, and you can see the trailer tilt over. It would be quite easy to overturn or lose the load here. The hill and the adverse camber means again the cab and the trailer tilt right over. And if you go too fast, there's a real danger of disaster, either tipping over or losing the load. Here you can't move up behind the waiting car because you'll block the road completely. You have to wait well back for the lights to change or the oncoming traffic can't clear you. Then by the time you get to the lights, they're changing to amber. This is the point of no return. There's traffic right behind us, and if we stop, it might cause an accident. And because of the roadworks, we'd be blocking the road. You need to proceed with extreme caution, watching the traffic on the right. On your test, you'll do a gear changing exercise. Start in first and change up through each gear without using the splitter. Checking the mirrors each time. And going up to fourth or fifth. Practice this somewhere quiet. And then go back down through the box. You have to demonstrate that you've actually engaged the gear, so you need to drive away slightly each time in the lower gear to make sure you've located it. When you do this, it's important to be aware of what's going on all around you. As always, use the brakes to slow and the gears to go. Make sure you're doing a safe speed for the hazard and plan well ahead. This section's all to do with the reversing and braking exercises you do on your test. It's a good idea before we do the reversing exercise to show you a straight reverse on the test pad. We're using the herringbone marking as a guide, starting off straight with equal amounts of trailer showing in each mirror. Now we're putting a slight bow on the vehicle, as if the trailer is running away from the unit. By steering towards the mirror with the most trailer showing in it, the trailer straightens up with the unit. Keep an even balance of trailer in each mirror, continuing with a series of small movements. You can practice this with your own car and trailer. It's very easy to get the reversing exercise wrong if you don't prepare for it properly, no matter how experienced a driver you are. Keep as close as you can to the cone with the pole in it and to the left-hand cone of the two in front of you, but don't touch them as you drive up to the start. This gives you as much space as possible for reversing. Now that's a good start. The trick now is to steer fast, but to move slowly. Think of the straight position as being 12 o'clock. Gently move backwards, putting right-hand lock full on immediately. Moving gently means less wear on the tyres and less strain on the steering. Reverse until the cab comes round to 10 or 11 o'clock, and then take the lock off until the wheels are straight. Now push the unit straight back until the rear offside wheel is no nearer than about 4 feet from the yellow line, and then full left-hand lock until the front and rear wheels are parallel with the line. Straighten the wheels. You should be about 18 inches from the line at this stage. Reverse the unit parallel to the line until the two cones with the poles in them at the start of the bay are starting to go out of sight in your near side mirror. Now it's left-hand lock full on, making sure you don't go over the line. Keep the front wheel up to the line until the unit is almost straight with the trailer. Now take the lock off so you're straight with the trailer. Push the outfit across the pad until the axles of the trailer have gone over the herringbone. Then a slight left-hand lock to give a bow to the vehicle. Straighten the lock and push the unit back, watching the trailer curve round. This is the second danger point. It takes experience to know how much bow to put on. Using right-hand lock on and then off, gently move the trailer over to the front of the bay. It's like following the contours of a 20p piece with your steering axle. Once you're straight and in front of the bay, reverse straight back on the mirrors, stopping with the rearmost part of the trailer inside the 3-foot yellow box. Let's now look at the reversing manoeuvre using a rigid and trailer combination. Pull forward to the two cones in front of you and stop with the front of the vehicle in line with them. Try and stop as close to the near side cone as you can while still keeping the outfit straight. As soon as you start to move backwards, full right-hand lock, bring your cab round to the 10 or 11 o'clock position, straighten the wheels and push back a couple of feet. Then full left-hand lock, push back parallel to the yellow line a couple of feet, and then left-hand lock to line up with the trailer. Again, move slowly but spin the wheel quickly. and keep your eye on the back of that trailer. It's amazing how quickly they can move out of line. But you can also correct a centre axle trailer a lot quicker than you can an Artic. Push straight back over the herringbone and bow it round again. Don't forget that all-round observation. Keep watching the back of the trailer, straighten up, remembering that a centre axle trailer reacts very quickly, and push back into the bay, stopping with the rearmost part of the trailer inside the 3-foot yellow box. On the braking exercise, more and more trucks are fitted with ABS, an anti-locking system. ABS means you don't have to pump the brakes, but it's still possible to get the braking exercise badly wrong. A common mistake is to put the brake and clutch down together, and without ABS, the wheels can lock. If you brake like this under the wrong circumstances, perhaps when going round a corner, and especially when loaded, you could well end up with a jackknife. To do the braking exercise properly, you need to get up to about 20 miles an hour and then brake hard without locking the wheels. Only put the clutch down just before the truck comes to rest. And finally, the handbrake. Do everything you can to keep full control of the vehicle. The ultimate loss of control is a jackknife. Position yourself on the road as accurately as you can and take account of the road surface. Wet roads mean longer stopping distances. When you drive defensively, it means you assess, you observe, and you plan. That 12'3" height limit means planning another route, at the same time as assessing the hazard from the car parked on the pavement. Observe the bridge carefully. Can you get underneath it without straddling the white line? And if you move to the centre, can you avoid the traffic coming round that bend? A mile to the right, there's a weight limit. He's going that way, so he must have planned his route already, using his local knowledge of the road layout. Planning ahead and reading the road gets more difficult as the weather deteriorates. This simulates visibility which is reduced by 10%. Already there's a significant difference. In heavy rain or mist, you should be going a lot slower than this. And in our simulation of heavy fog, you're meeting a wall of grey. A busy high street is a prime location for finding all sorts of hazards. We didn't quite keep it moving here, waiting for the lights to change to green. Notice the deep shadows under the trees, which are almost hiding some of the pedestrians. The road narrows slightly. Now that oncoming car is no problem waiting to turn right, but follow him through in your offside mirror. Watch those pedestrians coming up to the Pelican crossing. They're pushing the button and the lights could change. But we're through and kept tucked well over to the left for the fairly sharp bend. And emerging from the bend, watch on the near side for the pedestrians walking on the road. There's some traffic from the junction on the right. Now that dark blue car, it appears to be pulling out in front of us, but then it dives into a parking space. Now another Pelican crossing with lots of activity coming up. A group of lads running across the road as the lights change to red. We can anticipate we have to stop. And on with the handbrake. As the lights flash amber, a man appears from a blind spot beneath us. And that woman's still dragging her child across. Always be prepared for the unexpected. You never know what other people are going to do. As we curve round sharply, there's an island and a taxi partly blocking our path. We have to pull right over, almost to the curb, to squeeze through the gap, keeping a close eye on that island. And that's a fairly typical drive through a busy high street. If it's at all possible, keep the truck moving. A smoother drive means lower fuel consumption, better journey times and less wear and tear on vehicle and tyres. Here it's a good throttle sense that keeps us moving. We never quite stopped. And if we time our approach to the roundabout carefully, we may be able to slot in without stopping. But in fact, we're forced to stop here. By just creeping forward, we can let the other side of the road clear of traffic without us having actually to stop. Once it's clear, we can use the full width of the road to avoid clipping the near side curb. It all goes back to that ability to assess, good observation and careful planning, and a lot of practice. And this is one of the things defensive driving aims to avoid: excessive wear on the tyres as they scrub on the road. If you need to do a U-turn, you should plan ahead, reverse into a side road and then pull out forwards. This method can be very expensive. This manoeuvre has some of the elements of the reversing exercise, but in a real-life situation. Reversing into a loading bay, you need to get a bow on the vehicle before you start to push backwards. All you have to do now is to push the trailer back, very much like the last part of the exercise on the test pad. You're constantly putting small amounts of lock on and off, again, as if you're turning around the edges of a 20p piece. And now full lock to get the unit underneath the trailer and straight back into the loading bay. Now with the offside tyres along the yellow line and reversing back with continuous small adjustments until we gently touch the buffers. Here we're setting up the truck to reverse into a very tight shop access road. The oncoming traffic has already stopped, but you have to be very aware of what's happening behind you. All of the other road users here are going to get very impatient. A horn is a warning from our driver to the traffic behind, drawing attention to himself. He's pushing back towards the access road between the two shops, making rapid, small steering adjustments at slow speed to point the trailer exactly where he wants to go. And that's someone who's already lost patience and taken a chance. You should be prepared for that. Notice the one on the right creeping forward again. He's getting impatient too. And as the unit swings round, more traffic squeezes through and you can hear their frustration. There's a last-minute adjustment on the steering and we're there. This is a highly skilled manoeuvre even if the road was empty, but here it also demands all your skills in observation and awareness. You don't need to know about tipping to pass a test, but the chances are you will need to know at some time in your career. Once you've found some firm level ground, undo the catches. Pull the lever down and open the barn door and stand back. Press the clutch down. Wait a few seconds, depending on the gearbox that's fitted. Put the tipping switch to in and release the clutch gently. Push the tipping lever to up and wait for it to go up 3 or 4 rams. When some of the load has tipped, put the tipping switch to hold and then draw forward a few feet. Put the lever back to tip and discharge the remainder of the load. Put the lever to down and watch the body come down. Disengage the tipping unit and put the tipping lever back to hold when you're travelling empty. Clear any debris from the locking mechanism and secure the catches. As a final safety check before you leave the site, make sure there's nothing trapped between the twin wheels. Ask for expert advice to make sure it's removed safely. On the safety front, be aware of what's happening around you and anticipate hazards as far ahead as you can. Night driving means different hazards and special skills. We can see the lights ahead, which are green, but we're running up to a junction with yellow box markings, which we need to keep the whole of the vehicle clear of if we're going to stop. Now we have a street scene with no pedestrians because it's late. It's quiet, but you should never let your guard down. You never know what's around the next corner. Now this looks like it could be a one-way system coming up, although it doesn't say so. Keeping to the right-hand curb, checking the mirrors and moving over to the right-hand lane to turn right, anticipating any traffic coming from the road in front. This is like a large roundabout. 3 lanes now. Moving over to the left-hand lane. The lights are green, and at this time of night we can expect that they'll stay green. Still no other road users around, but stay alert. The arrows here are pointing towards the left, so there's a double white line system coming up, and it's solid on our side, and now hazard warning lines. Look for headlights coming in the opposite direction. They can give you a clue about what's happening further along. The sheer number of road signs here means we should be braking. The yellow bars on the road are badly scarred, suggesting a serious hazard, and lots of heavy braking from previous traffic. This is when you're glad your tyres are inflated correctly and they're not close to being worn out. There's some black and white chevrons, and there's so many of them, it's obviously a tight turn. Now we can start looking for traffic on the roundabout coming from the right to try and fit in without stopping. We're searching for clues and choosing the right gear. And now joining the motorway, we're on a divided slip road with very light traffic in our direction. We do an over-the-shoulder check to make sure we can join safely. Now, if this was daytime, we'd have to judge our approach speed very carefully to fit into a gap in the traffic. Don't let it being very quiet lull you into a false sense of security. For example, there could be a vehicle parked on the hard shoulder with no hazard lights. We can take it up to the speed limit once we're on, but remember, it takes 7.5 truck lengths to stop a fully loaded Artic. That's around 100 yards. Think of that next time you pass the 100-yard countdown markers at a junction. Double that to 15 truck lengths to stop in the wet, around 200 yards. That's a lot more than in a car. The brightly lit sign is for the motorway services, so we should already be thinking of moving over to the centre lane, if necessary, to allow people on more easily. In an older vehicle, you may need to double declutch. Watch the sequence carefully, and we'll show it to you again in slow motion. Clutch down, gear lever to neutral, clutch up, rev up the engine because we're changing down, clutch down, gear lever to the next position, and then clutch up again. At night, you often can't see where the trailer is by looking in the mirrors. You have to be skilled enough to know where it is, even though the mirrors don't really help. At night, stay alert. Make sure you can see and be seen. Busy motorways have their own hazards, not least getting onto them. You need a much bigger gap than in a car, and you should be prepared to stop if necessary. The mirrors show us another truck moving into the centre lane to allow us to join. Once we're in the near side lane, we'll stay there until we're used to the speed of the traffic. And there goes the truck that let us in. Generally, you can only use the first 2 lanes, but don't hog the centre lane when there are suitable gaps to your left. Move over to allow a free flow of traffic. You can use the 3rd lane if there are roadworks in the 1st lane or in a contraflow, or to overtake a wide load. Be aware that traffic will creep up on your near side like this van. In rain, cars will often sit in a blind spot behind you. Use your proximity mirror to show you where you are in relation to the hard shoulder. Use your height to observe what's happening ahead. Once the car is passed, you can anticipate the bulk carrier will pull out to overtake the tipper. The roadworks could mean that the tipper will pull in. If necessary, cover the brake. It reduces your reaction time and your overall stopping distance. In any sort of traffic, it's vital to maintain a 2-second margin between you and the vehicle ahead, even if the other drivers cut in between you when it's as heavy as this. We'll try it using the overhead gantry. Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. Just right. If you break down, pull over as far as you can onto the hard shoulder and put on your hazard lights. Never try and retrieve any part of the load if it falls off. Call the police immediately. If a tyre bursts, it's illegal to carry on driving. Call for assistance from a tyre dealer. You can never get away from motorway roadworks. Here the outside lane is closed down and the 50 limit is mandatory. So is the 30 limit. Stick to it no matter what other road users are doing. Motorway safety is a big issue for all drivers. Keep your distance, avoid motorway fatigue, and as always, plan ahead. There's a lot to take in all at once when you learn a large goods vehicle. There's a lot to take in when you watch this programme. To get the maximum benefit, you need to view it again and again. It's an important part of becoming a safe, professional driver.